Well, hi everyone. It is John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur here, coming at you this evening, which is, yes, a Monday evening. It is great to be here with a start of the week, but not a start of the series because we actually started it a few days ago on Saturday. If you are new to my program, Inspirations for Your Life, I would encourage you to please, yes, go ahead and click, actually not click, but scan that QR code right at the top. You take your phone using your camera app, and that'll direct you to my link tree. If you do not know what my link tree is, or if you don't know how to get there, you're having an issue with reading it from your phone, it's linktr.ee/JOHNCMORLEY, and then serial entrepreneur, SERIALENTREPRENEUR. Great to have you here, folks. And if you have been coming back to my channel, it's great to have you back again. I'm hoping that many of my new people will become just like my other people that have subscribed for a long time. And we're talking about a very interesting topic this week. And you guys know what that topic is, don't you? Sure you do. That topic is, what is motivation? We were talking about this the other day. Does it come in a box? Do we download it online? Do we put motivation together? I mean, what is motivation? And we keep saying that it's the stuff, right? Motivation is what you cannot directly see or touch, but affects our mind, it affects our body, and that really sets a standard to where we're going to be going or not going. When we think about motivation, right? I want to ask you if you've ever had to work on a school project, right? Maybe it was an oral assignment where you actually had to build something and then you had to get in front of the class and then you had to talk about it, right? I'm sure we've all had to do that. And if you haven't, well, I'm sure you're going to be doing it soon in your life. When we think about getting in front of the class and doing that oral, I mean, the very first time, I love to speak to people, as you know, but the very first time I got up to talk to people was actually when I was in, I believe it was first or second grade. And I had to recite the poem Trees by Joyce Kilmer. You're probably saying, John, what the heck is that? Well, Trees by Joyce Kilmer was a poem that I actually had to memorize, and I had to go up on stage, and I had to read that particular poem, right? And so when you think about something and just this poem Trees by Joyce Kilmer, it goes just like this, and I would like to quote, all right, Joyce Kilmer. I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the sweet earth's flowing breast, a tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray, a tree that may in summer wear, upon whose bosom snow has lain. Poems are made by fools like me. I remember, ladies and gentlemen, the first time that I needed to get up and read that poem. I'd never spoken in front of an audience before, other than my family and some friends. And again, I was only in first or second grade. And I memorized the poem, and I got up on stage, got to the microphone, and it just flowed. So I love being around other people. I love inspiring people, if you guys didn't know that already. But what was my motivation to let's say to learn that poem? Well, my motivation was that I was going to be on stage in a few weeks or a month, and I needed to have something to say. I needed to memorize that poem so that when I got up there, I would have it in my head and I could just get up there and I could just talk. And I remember being in school. It was a parochial school. And I remember they were very territorial about their microphones back then because they were a lot of money. And now there are even more. But back then, they might have been a little bit more money because the technology were not where they are today. And so one of our senior people was our pastor. He would always set the microphone up, and he'd always tell you not to touch it. And it was this big microphone with the gooseneck that kind of came down. It wasn't like a small mic like you have today when I read. And I remember, ladies and gentlemen, that microphone being there and walking up to the podium. And I could hear like a pin drop. I could hear my fingers as they touched the podium. And it got very quiet. And then I said Trees by Joyce Kilmer, and I read the poem. My motivation was a couple things. First of all, it was knowing that I was going to feel great after I read that poem. Knowing that other people were going to give me praise and that they were going to feel great. And knowing that when I did this, I was going to be able to do a lot of other things in life. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know that I was going to love to speak and be a barrel of laughs and inspiration and information for everyone. I didn't know that back then. I just knew that when I was in, I think it was 4th grade or 5th grade, my one grandfather on it would be my mom's dad. He used to say something. It was kind of funny. He'd always say, "Okay, we need to stop a little bit." And that was his way of telling you to stop talking. And I remember, even to this day, how even my grandmother and my dad's mom and my dad's dad would always say to me, "Where do you get so much energy? Where do you get it from?" I was like, "I don't know." And they keep saying, "John, I wish I had your energy." I think inspiration is something that is contagious. When people know that you're inspired, right? It's very contagious. But motivation starts off as a tiny seed, and then it kind of blossoms to something even bigger. Now, the thing about motivation is that you don't unpack motivation overnight. Sometimes it needs to start like a snowball. It rolls down the hill, and then it picks up momentum. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Before you know it, nothing can stop motivation. You see, that's the power of motivation. If you can understand how it works, once you have enough faith to believe in it and know that you are already being successful, by the time anyone tries to stop you, you're just bolstering forward. That's pretty cool, right? But motivation was what I had to get up there. First of all, to memorize that poem, to get up on stage. And I remember going to the podium. I was a lot smaller then, and I had my light blue shirt on, which is what we had. We had uniforms, and we had dark blue pants. Definitely got tired of wearing that because that was the uniform. And I had this like gray, blue plaid stripe tie. And up until about, I think it was 4th grade or maybe 5th grade, you just kind of wore the uniform. You didn't think much of it. When you got up to 5th and 6th grade, it's like, oh, I got to wear this a couple more years. And I remember that after 4th or 5th grade, you had the option to get a tie. So there was one that was a clip-on, right? Nobody could really tell. I mean, you could, because you could see that the tie wasn't really made. You could tell that it was just way too perfect. and it was like wide. And I also remember that I never got one of those ties. I always used a clip on. When I had gym, I knew that when I was getting out of gym, I'd have to put the tie back on. And putting a clip on was a lot easier. And I didn't know how to tie a tie. Truth be told, I didn't learn how to tie a tie until I was probably a sophomore in college. And it was one of my good friends, and he showed me how to tie a tie. And it stuck with me. My motivation for wanting to wear a clip-on tie was that it was easy, it was simple. I wouldn't have to worry about being late to class, and I didn't have to just stress about learning how to tie a tie. I didn't want to ask anybody to teach me because I knew it wasn't going to be simple. I just knew it. And if I didn't pick it up quick enough, I knew people were going to be like, well, when are you going to learn? When are you going to learn? So I decided to just forget about it. And then I was going to a party or an event, and I said to my friend, could you help me? He's like, with what? I said, I don't know how to tie a tie. He's like, seriously? I was like, yeah, I don't know how to tie a tie. Come here. And, I put my collar up, put the tie down, it was behind me, and he was showing me how to tie the tie, and he did it. And then he undid it. He's like, now you try. I'm like, what? And I was like, all right, I'll tie it today. He's like, but tomorrow you're going to learn how to tie a tie. And he's like, what time is dinner? I said, I don't know. I think dinner's like 6 o'clock. It's like 4 o'clock now. He's like, oh, we got 2 freaking hours. He's like, you're going to learn how to tie a tie now. I don't know. And when he started to show me how to tie a tie, it became easy. It became fun. I remember telling my parents, like, who tied your tie? I'm like, I did. And that was like a rite of passage. It was a great moment in my life. And I think a lot of times people have these moments. And it's these moments that motivate us that other things are coming for us that are even greater than what we have now. If I asked you right now, what would motivate you to want to make more money? I'm not going to answer that tonight. But what would motivate you? Think about that. There's a lot of internal things, a lot of external things. If I say to you, what motivated you to do something today? What would I be talking about? Well, it depends, right? What motivated you to behave and not act out in church or at a restaurant? What motivated you when you were younger? Your motivation was that if you behaved, then you would get to go to more events like this. And you'd be revered as this kid that was very respectable, very well-mannered. And I think it meant more to the parents than it did to you at the time or to me. Later on, I started to appreciate what being well-mannered meant. But when I was young, it didn't really matter to me. I just knew this was something I was supposed to do. Now, if you're doing something because someone else is telling you to do it, that's not motivation. Motivation is either something that you're going to get or something you're going to stay away from, right? There's positive motivation and negative motivation. That's the way I like to look at it. Positive motivation is always better, by the way. It's always better. Always think about what you're going to get, not what you're not going to get. And so when we think about motivation, what motivates you to read a book? Well, what's motivating you to read the books on your summer reading list? Very simple. When you get back to school, you don't want to get a bad grade for a book report because you didn't read it. I had some great teachers, and one teacher was my AP English teacher. And she allowed us to get the Cliff Notes, but she told us, don't you dare write an explanation to any of my answers based on the Cliff Notes, because I'll fail you. So I'm like, well, what's the Cliff Notes for? The Cliff Notes are to give you a basis or an understanding once you've read the book if you still don't understand it. But it's not to be a direct replacement for the book. A lot of people shrug their shoulders at that. And I remember coming in one Monday morning after being out for the summer, and we turned our book reports in, and the teacher had come up with this little quiz, first day of class, basically. So you had a couple days you're coming in. It was really the first real day of class, which was like maybe that second Monday, because the first week we really didn't do much but just get organized. And they were supposed to read this book. We all were. And maybe we read some of the books. Well, you didn't know which book she was going to ask you about. So we didn't need to have a book report, which was interesting. You only needed to pick one book report. Strangely enough, the one that we wrote the book report about was not the one she asked us. And she picked a different one for each student. Interesting. So when you got the test or the quiz, she told you which book you're to talk about. And she always picked the book that you didn't present. And she said at the very beginning, don't you dare give me an answer based on the Cliff Notes. So a couple of the, what's called, I don't know, class clowns or the geniuses they thought that they were, turned in the assignment. It looked really great. And I remember her coming back. This one kid, his name was Brian. Another one's name was Bill. And she comes back the next day. She would always grade the test like immediately. And they'd be ready. You didn't have to wait like weeks. They would be like that day, or somebody should have the answer, the score of that test, like literally right then and there. A lot of times you take a test, and you're like, oh, I'll wait till Monday or Tuesday because I won't know the result. But when you got the test result right then and there, that was fun. And so that same day, before we even went home, she says, I'd like to commend Mr. Brian and Mr. Bill. And she called them by their last name. These two geniuses wrote a scholarly book report. And they're all starting to feel gloated and great. And I am just so, they're waiting for a great word, disappointed. They look at her like, disappointed. That the words they used were all based on the subcontext of the Cliff Notes. Other than that, it would have been an A. And so they're like, well, what do we get? And she says, well, you did put some effort in, so I'm not going to give you an F, but I am going to give you a D. They walk down with their heads between their legs and just kind of like. So next time when there was a reading assignment, guess what? Nobody even touched the Cliff Notes. They didn't even want to buy them. I remember being in gym, and the last person out to be, being changed if you weren't quick, usually would get called up by the director of athletics. And I remember, not being in a rush to get to gym, and this, it comes up to me, this gentleman, he says to me, Mr. Morley, so glad that you could make it. I was about to send you a written invitation. I said, oh, well, I'm here. I said, yes, you're here, and you're going to lead the calisthenics. And so I get up there, and I'm like, okay, calisthenics. So I just start doing a couple jumping jacks. Like, no, not 10. We're going to do 50. And I would try to do like little things, and he would just keep making it harder. And so my motivation for getting, let's say, dressed for class and dressed for gym class and dressed back to go to school on time was two things. One, I didn't want to be leading calisthenics. I didn't want to be leading. Second, I didn't want to be late to a class, because if I was late for a class and there was a test, that would be 10, 15, or 20 minutes that I may not get that I need for that test. Thus, my motivation was that I need to get in and get out and do what I need to do and not get belabored into talking, because a lot of times you'd get into the men's locker room and you're talking and you're just really just BSing and not really saying, you're not really doing anything much. You're just taking your time, and you're taking a lot longer to get ready. And then all of a sudden, the instructor comes in and says, "What are we doing?" He's like, "This isn't a Friday night get together here, guys. This is the time you're supposed to be getting ready for gym." And I remember one time, one of the fellow students there, who always was the slowest. He was like, when I was the slowest, he was slower than me. So after I had that lesson, I then would become like the first, the second, and that was fine, or even in the middle was fine. But this one kid still kept coming very close to the end, maybe the second or the third. And I remember the instructor saying, "I guess it doesn't faze you that you're leading calisthenics." I don't mind. He's like, "I love leading calisthenics." So it didn't motivate him to get dressed any faster for class. He says, "Okay. Because of Mr. Johnson, let's just say that's his name, inability to get ready in a quick fashion and cause us to lose 10 or 15 minutes, we're all going to do 10 extra suicides today." Or because of Mr. Johnson's inability to get us ready for this, we are now going to take those extra 10 minutes that you've wasted after the bell. Now that pissed some people off. So the bell would ring whatever time it was. I think if it was, I think it was 2:30 or 2. I think it was 2. I think it was 10 to. I think it was 10 to 3, and that bell would ring. And when that bell rang, we would usually go right out. It's like, no, now we're going to wait those extra 10 minutes that you guys thought was so funny to take time. We're now going to take that time, and now you're going to make that up. Well, once he started doing that a few times, the guys started getting really pissed and pretty much ranking on him. Look, if you're going to do this to us, there's going to be consequences. And so guess what happened the next week? He got dressed really quickly, and we never had to delay a moment again. Another great motivation thing I want to talk about is we use something called time blocks or mods to prep us for college. So we were college prep high school. And I remember when you'd go through the hallway and you had to have a pass. They called it a hall pass. You didn't have the hall pass and you were not on a mod. So what the heck is a mod? Really simple. So a mod is actually a time period between the blocks. So a block happened on the hour, 15 minutes after the hour, half past, and quarter to the hour. So basically what that meant in terms of the time is you would basically get the time that you were able to move, okay? You were basically given, I believe it was like, let's say the class ended at 55. You'd have 5 minutes to get to your class before, or 5 point some minutes to get there, because the class started right at that moment. And I remember a lot of people, if they didn't have anywhere to go, like a free or something, or they were in the hallway, if you were in the hallway and you didn't have a pass, there'd be a hall moderator, usually the same gym person. And it was funny how he was just always there. He was a disciplinarian, so he was like always around. Couldn't get away from him. And I remember he would call you by your last name. And so my last name is Morley. Like, Mr. Morley, do we have a pass? Pass for what? You're off the mod time. Oh, am I? You are. Do you have a pass? You know, I think I left it in the library. Okay, you go get your pass. Next time it happens, it's going to be detention. And so I remember one time coming out, and I'm like, well, I'm just helping Mrs. Johnson with her books. I'm like, and I look at her, and it's like, he's helping you, right? Like, yes, he's helping me. I was like, oh, thank you. And he's like, I'm glad you're helping her. But Mrs. Phelan, you're not doing John any favors by covering for him. I know that he's not even supposed to be in your classroom right now. And so he was just there at all different points. And so your motivation to use a pass is because you didn't want to get detention. And what detention was is when school ended, you'd have to stay after. But some people didn't mind that. So they had an interesting detention for the people that liked detention. They thought it was a lot of fun. Well, they decided to make detention on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. So when you had detention for Jim or from the disciplinarian and not a teacher, he's like, I don't care. He's like, I live just right up the road. We'll have detention on Saturday morning. You all can sit in the library and do your homework and be quiet. And so the motivation to behave in gym is nobody wanted to come to detention on a Saturday. There were a lot of things we wanted to do on a Saturday. And being in this guy's disciplinarian class was not one of them. The other detention was like a field day because you got to do your homework. And so you're going to do that at home anyway. You could have your snacks. Person would go to make photocopies. So we knew when they were making photocopies or working on tests, we could talk. And then we always said one person, oh, she's coming. And then we said, okay, let's be quiet. We're all just kind of like, and then she'd leave again. So it's like, so we kind of had that down pat. Our motivation in school for paying attention is that we want to have great grades. We want to have great grades because we want to get on the honor roll. We want to get on the honor roll because we wanted to get into a good college. We wanted to get into a good college so we could get a great degree, get a good GPA, get on the honor roll in college, and be chosen to get a great job. Or, like myself, starting my own companies. So motivation, ladies and gentlemen, is that factor that makes each and every one of us accountable for our actions because we want to, not because we have to. Now, what's the difference between want to and have to? So we want to behave in gym class because we don't want to get detention on a Sunday or a Saturday morning, right? So we do want to behave because we don't want that consequence, right? There's a cause and there's an effect. I remember one time I was coming to class, and I remember there was a bus coming to school. And everybody came out of the bus, so it was very easy to just, go with that bus and say, oh, yeah, I was on the bus. And substitute didn't really know the difference. But then I remember we did that again, and this gym instructor was there. I said, yeah, I don't need a pass. And he's like, and I got a pass in the office because of the bus. And he's like, John, why do you have a pass? Said, well, we're all on the bus together. Where do you live again? Gave my address. It's like, I didn't think you took the bus. Oh, the bus comes to my house, and it does. I just didn't take it all the time. He's like, and you were on the bus? I said, I was on the bus. Hang on a minute. Goes outside. Was John on the bus? Who's John? This guy right here. He wasn't on my bus. Detention. So you kind of knew what you could do and what you couldn't do. And your motivation for trying to not get caught, I guess, was the fact that it was the in thing or the cool thing to do something and not get caught. Like being able to go from one class to another class, well, there's a potential of this gym instructor being there that could potentially give you a detention, and just kind of scurrying across the hallway or just trying to get past him so he didn't see you, and getting from, let's say, the library to the cafeteria, which is all the way upstairs, or from a classroom or to your locker or back. And that was pretty risky to go from the library all the way to the cafeteria upstairs. You'd have to not only get to the first hall monitor, which was downstairs, which was his assistant, and then he was usually sitting right outside his office, outside the cafeteria. But it was very easy to do it if you were there, and let's say the mod was going to happen in a couple minutes. So you could easily go around the corner. Nobody would catch you just going into a hallway. And if you could just get to the hallway, because nobody would probably watch inside the hallway where the stairs are, and then the mod happened, and then you were free. So that's kind of how it worked. And you got motivated on this because you didn't want detention. We're going to talk more about this. Ladies and gentlemen, why don't you like my video, support it, definitely comment below. What motivated you to do things in school or not to do them? Tag your friends, your colleagues, and your associates. Share it out with everyone you know on social media. Then go to my YouTube channel, type John space C space MORLEY space Serial Entrepreneur, and look for the key phrase to help keep our content free. Below that, make the choice, ladies and gentlemen, to buy my team and I a cup of coffee. We will be so grateful with those pennies and dollars that we'll invest them into new hardware, new technology, new equipment, new software, and even new staff and facilities to give you the most jaw-dropping, motivational, inspirational content. And you know I'll be grateful for that every single moment. I hope that you are having a wonderful night and that you're learning a lot about inspiration. I will see you guys tomorrow that's going to be episode, we had Saturday, Sunday episode 4. We'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Have a good one.